Charlie Kirk's the founder and CEO of Turning Point USA and the author of the new book, The College Scam. So, Charlie, do you accept the View's apology?
I mean, regardless of whether or not I accept it, the question is, do our students accept it? That's really what's at heart here. They went after our 5,000 students at our event there of high school and college kids. And look, I get attacked all the time. People say false things. I'm a public figure. But when you go after 16 and 17-year-olds that travel from across the country that then have to live for the rest of their life with a shadow over them because someone at ABC says that they might be linked to neo-Nazis.
Sunny Hostin didn't just falter. She crumbled under the relentless spotlight of live television, leaving viewers stunned as her polished confidence fractured before their eyes. What was intended to be a routine episode of The View quickly spiraled into a national spectacle of embarrassment, one that social media immortalized within minutes. Charlie Kirk, without even sharing the stage, delivered a takedown so precise it dismantled Hostin's carefully maintained persona from a distance. His words hit with surgical precision, and by the time his arguments began dominating the conversation, Hostin was visibly rattled, grasping for footing, her composure slipping further with every attempt to recover. This wasn't a fiery exchange, it was a full-scale demolition broadcast in real time. Her elitist remarks about uneducated white women backfired spectacularly, freezing the audience between awkward silence and hesitant applause as she scrambled to contain the damage. Each pause, each forced smile, each stammer only magnified the implosion. Meanwhile, Kirk seized the moment, hammering her narrative with unrelenting force, ensuring that Hostin's collapse would be remembered as a turning point rather than just another televised debate.
Disgusting, gross elitism and her complete out-of-touch nature with respect to the rest of the world. Sunny Hostin goes on The View and decides now would be a great time to dump all over the so-called uneducated.
What we did not have is white women who voted about 52%, right, for Donald Trump. Uneducated white women is my understanding.
Just because you didn't go to college doesn't mean you're stupid, and it doesn't mean that you don't have wisdom. You can go to college and get a bunch of irrelevant facts about how men can allegedly give birth or whatever they teach. But I said this to our team. I said working people, the muscular class, including working women, they are so in favor of Trump, and they don't want to be called stupid or uneducated.
Charlie Kirk tore into Sunny Hostin's claims with words that landed like a wrecking ball, smashing through her argument until there was nothing left but tense silence and strained smiles from the panel around her. His rebuttal didn't just challenge, it obliterated, leaving her visibly rattled as the studio's energy shifted from debate to demolition. The fallout was immediate. Clips of her meltdown erupted across social media, spreading like wildfire and cementing her as the unfortunate symbol of elitist arrogance crumbling under pressure. Twitter exploded with ridicule. TikTok loops endlessly mocked her panicked expressions, and YouTube commentators dissected every stammer with ruthless precision. Yet the most devastating blow wasn't digital. It was her on-air capitulation. For a woman who built her brand on intellectual sharpness, being forced to mutter, "My bad, I'm sorry," in front of a live audience was humiliation so raw it reverberated louder than any headline. Viewers saw the unraveling in her every gesture. Hands nervously fidgeting, eyes darting toward the teleprompter as if begging for salvation, and a voice once commanding now trembling like a tower seconds from collapse. Each movement betrayed the confidence she no longer had. Meanwhile, Kirk celebrated without ever stepping foot on the stage, weaponizing his platform to unleash videos, sound bites, and edits that shredded Hostin's credibility, while rallying his digital army to ensure the humiliation lingered. This wasn't a stumble, it was a full-scale implosion. In the brutal era of digital warfare, where one clip, one look, or one failed defense can define a public figure forever, Hostin had underestimated the stakes. And in doing so, she transformed herself into the unwilling poster child of political humiliation.
What did it take for us to get to the point of an apology? We had to threaten a lawsuit, Jesse. And by the way, we're still entertaining it. We're talking to some of the best lawyers out there that are experts in this. And as you know, these things can be very complicated. There's a lot of facts and circumstances around it. But we're not going to let this go, because you should not be able to smear 5,000 high school and college kids and then just be able to walk away with it. And the reason they felt they needed to do that, Jesse, is because if they told their audience the truth, that when gas is the most expensive it's been, inflation, flights are super expensive, that 5,000 kids decided to spend a weekend in summer traveling across the country to go hear from conservative speakers, maybe the audience of The View would think twice about all of their ideas. That's why they felt so compelled to try to smear our wonderful summit this last week.
Yeah, they have nothing else to talk.
What made the spectacle even worse was that Kirk didn't just strike at Sunny Hostin's arguments. He dismantled the entire elitist ecosystem she embodied. The polished, educated, above-the-people persona she projected collapsed beneath the weight of blunt, unvarnished truths that resonated far more than her condescending rhetoric ever could. As the exchange reverberated nationwide, it became painfully clear that Hostin had walked straight into a storm she wasn't equipped to weather. She brought law school logic into what had devolved into a meme war. And in today's digital battlefield, memes always win. The internet feasts on humiliation, and Sunny served it up effortlessly. Her sneering remarks about uneducated voters backfired so explosively that even her co-hosts shifted uncomfortably in their seats, caught between silence and embarrassment. What she intended as a sharp intellectual takedown quickly became a glaring display of tone-deaf elitism that left millions of viewers at home feeling insulted. Meanwhile, Charlie Kirk delivered a masterclass in media dominance, framing her as the living symbol of arrogance and detachment from everyday Americans. Once that label stuck, no apology, no spin, no carefully crafted statement could scrape it away. In the ruthless world of online politics, perception isn't just powerful, it's permanent. Hostin's meltdown became the story, overshadowing every policy point, every counterargument, every attempt at recovery. That day, she wasn't the lawyer turned commentator. She was the face of fragility, broadcast in high definition and replayed endlessly in slow motion across TikTok edits, Twitter threads, and YouTube reaction videos. The producers of The View are no strangers to live chaos, but even they weren't prepared for this. A moment that wasn't a fiery debate, but a quiet, humiliating collapse of one of their star voices, etched into digital history forever.
Privilege is a racist myth that is rooted in bigotry, trying to classify people based on their skin color. If you are a racist, you have something to apologize for. If you're a white person who is not a racist, you have nothing to apologize for. And anyone who makes you apologize just based on the color of their skin, they're the racist and you're not.
President, open your mouth.
You let them in and you knew what they were.
Right.
So you are complicit. I want to make a quick clarification about the neo-Nazi Turning Point event. They were outside protesters. My point was more metaphorical, that you embraced them at your thing, I felt.
And the cameras caught every moment of Sunny Hostin's collapse with ruthless precision, each frame stripping away the confidence she once carried. Charlie Kirk didn't need to shout, rage, or overwhelm her. His calm dismantling, paired with the strategic online packaging of her unraveling, made the humiliation far more crushing than any heated exchange could. This wasn't a fiery back and forth. It was a demolition executed with silence, smirks, and the undeniable weight of being outclassed in a new kind of political battlefield. By the time the dust had settled, Hostin's credibility lay scattered in 1,000 digital fragments. What began as a live meltdown mutated into a meme, the meme evolved into a weapon, and that weapon became her new permanent identity online. There was no erasing what millions had already witnessed. The tragedy was painfully simple. Sunny thought she was engaging in a debate, but Charlie Kirk was waging a war, one he understood with surgical precision. He knew the mechanics of viral culture, the rules of modern media combat, and she walked straight into it unarmed. The very second the clip exploded across platforms, her defeat was sealed in the court of public opinion. What once looked like a confident attempt to deliver a takedown instantly transformed into a career-defining catastrophe. One remark, one collapse, and suddenly Sunny Hostin became the living case study of how brutally fast reputations can burn under the spotlight of viral culture. As the applause inside the studio faded into an awkward hush, the roar of the internet grew louder than ever, drowning her voice entirely. Kirk walked away victorious without breaking a sweat, while Hostin was left gathering the shattered remains of her credibility before an audience that will never forget her downfall. And what made her collapse unforgettable was not chaos or theatrics. There were no screaming matches or flying chairs. It was the quiet kind of devastation. The subtle tremor in her voice, the nervous flicker of her eyes, the fragile cracks in her composure all exposed a weakness she couldn't hide, preserved forever by the unforgiving lens of the cameras.
Welcome back. You know, in Monday's conversation about Turning Point USA, I put the young people at the conference in the same category as the protesters outside. And I don't like it when people make assumptions about me. And it's not any better when I make assumptions about other people, which I did. So, my bad. I'm sorry. Okay. So, the state, the U.S.
Yeah, they have nothing else to talk about. Maybe you should get the lawyer that worked on that Covington Catholic school case. What was that, a $200 million settlement? I think, Charlie, you could use the money, and your students definitely could, too.
Her supporters tried to downplay the disaster, but the internet has no mercy for weakness, and once a single clip morphs into a meme, no PR spin in the world can smother the fire. Within hours, Sunny Hostin meltdown was trending across Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. Her reputation consumed in digital flames that spread faster than any official statement could catch. Charlie Kirk, meanwhile, didn't even break a sweat. He knew exactly how to weaponize optics, how to seize control of the narrative, and how to make sure Sunny's collapse wasn't just noticed, it was replayed, remixed, and amplified until it was utterly inescapable. For Sunny, this moment went far beyond simply losing an argument. It was about unraveling in real time, in front of millions, on a national stage where image is everything. People don't remember whose statistics landed harder. They remember who looked stronger, steadier, and more composed. And that day, Sunny looked shaken, fragile, and hopelessly overwhelmed. Her half-hearted apology only deepened the wound. Short, awkward, and hollow, it reminded viewers not of her strength but of the humiliating implosion they had just witnessed. Once you admit defeat live on air, the damage is irreversible. Charlie Kirk understood this perfectly. He doubled down with his digital arsenal, cutting sharp edits, laying music underneath, and repackaging her humiliation into content calibrated to go viral. And viral it went. Millions of views flooded in, cementing his dominance while dragging her deeper into the abyss of public ridicule. The brilliance of Kirk's attack was its brutal simplicity. He didn't just argue, he exposed. With precision, he framed Sunny as the perfect emblem of elitist arrogance, a commentator who mocked ordinary Americans while hiding behind the insulated comfort of her talk show set.
The final point I'll say is this, is Sunny, you guys thought that abortion was going to be this like quasi-zealot religious issue? I'm pro-life. If people in the audience aren't, that's fine. What I'm saying though, what gives me promise, and I think we can all agree on this, is that there are other issues that should animate and drive our politics other than this very divisive one. And I was really encouraged by that, Megan. Very encouraged, because the media was forcing this as an up or down vote on a referendum on a highly complicated, very emotional, very personal issue. And it turned out the American people were like, yeah, actually, these other 6 things matter more.
And that framing stuck harder than anything Sunny could counter. Even her co-hosts, usually quick to jump in, shifted uncomfortably in their seats as the air in the studio grew heavy with tension. The audience, sensing the collapse, hesitated before reacting, and the silence that followed her remarks screamed louder than any rebuttal. Charlie Kirk didn't need to gloat. He allowed the internet to carry the torch. His supporters clipped, edited, and spread the moment until it transformed into a cultural talking point, proof that in modern media, perception crushes credentials. Sunny's error was simple yet fatal. She underestimated the brutal power of optics. What she thought was sharp commentary appeared instead as a woman unraveling under pressure, her authority dissolving in real time. It didn't matter how polished her resume was or how many debates she had survived before. This was the moment people would remember, the moment she cracked on camera. And in today's viral ecosystem, one crack defines the entire picture. The clip replayed endlessly across commentary shows, each analyst dissecting her tone, her shaky body language, and her complete inability to recover. Suddenly it wasn't about her words at all, it was about how defeated she looked delivering them. Her apology only twisted the knife further. Short, hesitant, and awkward, it didn't patch the wound, it highlighted it. In the eyes of millions, she didn't just falter. She admitted she had faltered. And once that happened, her fate was sealed. The internet smelled blood, and there was no walking away from the feeding frenzy.
I don't want to say too much, but we're going to have a lot of fun at the Department of Education. We're going to have a lot of fun.
Can I tell you something? Like, I've had quite a few people contact me about that particular post. Like, I'm sure I have one 1/100th of what you're getting, but people are contacting me about cabinet posts. I'm like, I got
look,
nothing.
I mean, yeah, I'm actually, after this conversation, heading to Mar-a-Lago for a week. And we have a lot to sift through. And if I could be helpful, I have asked. I want to be actively involved in all things education, as you can imagine.
Charlie Kirk, conversely, surged ahead with unprecedented momentum. His measured dismantling, amplified by a ruthless online media strategy, made him appear untouchable, while Sunny became the embodiment of collapse. The contrast was merciless. For The View, the episode was catastrophic. The hosts lost control of the narrative, credibility came into question, and their star commentator was reduced to a viral punchline that will linger in pop culture memory. Sunny Hostin emerged as the unwilling face of a media generation increasingly out of touch with everyday people. Her elitist remarks revealed more than intended, and Kirk's precise takedown ensured the nation saw exactly what she represented and why it was so widely rejected. The incident transcended politics, becoming a cultural spectacle. Reaction channels framed it like a boxing match. Kirk the undisputed champion, Sunny the out-of-touch elitist who underestimated her opponent. The sting was amplified by the nature of optics. She could have possessed the strongest arguments, yet the world only saw a woman unraveling on live television. Producers scrambled to manage the fallout, but the internet had already claimed victory. Once memes, commentary, and viral clips dominate, the story leaves the creator's hands and belongs to the audience. Sunny Hostin's reputation as an unflappable commentator was obliterated in an instant, years of credibility erased in seconds of visible distress.
For the weekend, Turning Point USA hosted a riveting event in Tampa, Florida called the Student Action Summit. Outside of the event were individuals waving flags and engaged in other activities. Well, on Monday's show, members of The View made a few comments about it.
The conservative group Turning Point USA has condemned the group of neo and said they have nothing to do with the organization.
Yeah, but where was DeSantis is what I want to know.
But you let them in.
President, open your
You
mouth
let
too.
them in and you knew what they were.
Right.
So you are...
Forever captured in high definition and replayed endlessly by critics, Sunny Hostin's collapse became an unerasable digital spectacle. Charlie Kirk, meanwhile, celebrated silently, letting his supporters amplify the moment. Needing no additional push, the internet had already crowned him victorious, and Sunny's humiliation became the centerpiece of his online triumph. The contrast was stark. Kirk calm, collected, and strategic. Hostin visibly shaken, defeated, and unprepared. This was no longer a debate. It was a rout, a one-sided public dismantling that would shadow her career for years. It revealed the fragility of traditional media figures under relentless online scrutiny. As The View credits rolled, Sunny was left with fragments of her shattered composure and the inescapable reality of her public defeat. Once the internet brands someone with humiliation, it rarely lets go. Hostin's meltdown transcended a mere bad day. It served as a cultural warning. In today's media environment, the strongest survive, the weakest crumble, and viral disgrace spreads faster than truth. In this battle, Charlie Kirk didn't just win. He made history by turning a seasoned commentator into a permanent viral cautionary tale, forever remembered as the day Sunny Hostin unraveled on live television.